Taylor Elwood here with the Submissive Myths Mysteries, and I am thrilled to have on here today with me Francisca. Please introduce yourself, Francisca, and tell us who you are and what you do.
Yeah, my name is Francisca, and I work with men in the realm of relationships. So how to decode the woman in their life and how to step into their power fully. This is my work.
Yeah, I've been following you for a little while now on Substack and commenting on your notes. I really appreciate the energy and the presence that you bring to what you write and how that shows up. And I think one of the challenges that I would observe about men is that they really struggle with their own presence. And as a result, it creates a leaky relationship when it comes to the relationship that they have with women. And I'm curious as to what your thoughts are on that, if you agree with that or if you would take it in a different direction.
Well, I think presence is very much a very rare good nowadays because, well, practically everything in our world is distracting us and pulling us out of our bodies. So it's very special if someone is present because it takes a lot from us. And it's a lot of work to get there and to hold your focus and to stay steady. So I also think that this is one part why so many relationships suck. This is my observation. Because we are not connected with ourselves. We're not connected with our bodies. And this really shows in relationships. It also shows in life, but you can kind of outperform it in a way if you want to, but in relationships you can't really. You're like when you push the dog's nose into their own shit to make them have a lesson. This is how relationships are in my view. You really are confronted with who you are.
No, there's truth to that. I'm going to comment on that in a moment, but I want to first just welcome the people that have joined. We've had Jamie, Alexandru, Colino, Uncharted Father, Sheena, my sweetheart Sheena, and Chris joined. So welcome all of you. One thing that I like to do with these live broadcasts is that first greet people, but also to invite people to offer comments and questions as we're doing this. So, as you go through, as you're listening to us, if you have questions, if you have comments, please feel free to drop those in. And at an opportune moment, I will be more than happy to share that as we have this conversation. So, you said earlier, and I think that this is really a key thing, that, relationships call us in. That's how I'm going to take what you said, but they call us in. Like, it's an interesting reality. Like, I was on a Zoom with my beloved earlier because she lives up in Canada. I live here in the US, and we talk every day. And I was sharing some stuff that I had been working on, but then I started to get a little critical about myself. And she called it in and she's like, you need to just fill that part of yourself. You did a lot. Celebrate that. Be with it. And I loved it. It was calling me into presence. And sometimes I do the same thing for her. It's true. We can't escape that in relationship. And you mentioned distractions. I think that, you were talking about like the body, like people not being in their bodies. So what would be a suggestion that you would have for either a man or a woman or regardless, like to get back into their bodies? Like, what's one thing that we could do like today, if we wanted to get into our bodies and to be more present with ourselves? Because I don't think you can be present with other people without learning how to be first present with yourself as well.
Yeah, I think so too. So, I mean, one way to be present in the body is to use the body, but I think it goes further than this. I'm just thinking about a friend of mine, and she was a ballet dancer. And she said, like, back in the days, she was using her body so much. She was doing so much with her body, but she didn't feel it. So using the body doesn't mean you really feel it from the inside. And Well, in my eyes, sexuality is just a great way to get into the body and to be present in the body with the sensation. And especially all these tantric, Taoist practices you can do, which go like they're just not like superficial sexuality, but they really go deep into the flesh and into the energetics of the body. So this is how I certainly cultivated a lot of presence in myself. Meditation is great. And actually just to sit with where you are and just not run away is great already, because we do that on a constant level. Actually, we just, I observe myself oftentimes just like running to the next thing, or I'm not feeling great, so I'm just doing something, and to sit with it and breathe in it, it's actually like a great relief, because you feel like you're not dying. You are still alive, and it's okay. And it's just like a feeling. And I think that's one of the first things. And I also observed that in coaching, is that the urge to run away is so big. And if we can manage to stay with whatever we feel and wherever we are, that's just a great start to cultivate presence. And it also means if I can stay with very uncomfortable feelings in myself, I can do that with other people too. I can do that with my lover too.
Mm-hmm. Welcome, Pam. Welcome, the Masculine Institute. Glad to have you all here.
Oh, Mark is here.
Yeah, is that the Masculine Institute, Mark? Is that his name?
Yeah, it's his name. Mm-hmm.
Okay, hi, Mark. Well, this is and this is really key. Like being able to be with the uncomfortable things, being with the uncomfortable sensations.
Yeah.
I think is absolutely true. It's interesting because when you talk about like people running away, like it is very easy to get caught up in I think in the busy, right? Like, oh, there's so many things I can do. And it's true. Like, I can do like a physical exercise and still not be connected with my body. My body might be experiencing something. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm fully grounded and present with it.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I notice about your notes a lot of times, and again, that I really appreciate, is that you'll talk about like the cost of the lack of presence. What is it, in your opinion, that women want from men when it comes to relationship and how men show up? What is the one thing that men are lacking in that they need to maybe be showing up with more for women to be fully grounded and safe with them?
I don't know if it's one thing. I think it's a combination of at least two things in my eyes. And I would say if I would, yeah. So if I would break it down, I would say it's loving presence. So presence with love for her. And it's a cultivation of their dangerous part. I talk about that a lot too, because I see, at least in the Western world, that's something that decreases. And in men, certainly, and I felt that in many. I mean, I dated a lot, and most men didn't have it anymore. It was kind of like buried or like pushed aside, or it was like overly lived, like accentuated. So I think the combination of this presence with love and their dangerous side, which can also protect her, but also like take her in the right way whenever she needs that, is like a very good combination for a man.
Mm. Yeah, that really lands with me. I think that there is something very important about having that loving presence. I would add to that I think that for what I've observed is that for a man to have a loving presence with somebody else, he's also got to learn how to love, care, and respect for himself. And interestingly enough, I think that actually leads into the experience of being a danger. That thing where a man can be in that danger energy. because when I know myself well enough to know like what I need to do to take care of myself and show up, then I'm also able to show up in relationship to the world around me and know like that I can handle that. And that as a result, the way that I connect with her is going to be much deeper because I can meet her where
Yeah.
she's at.
Yeah, that's actually like presence is actually like the key, because it means you can stay with whatever is and whatever she needs and whatever you need, and also react accordingly. So this is, you can really like boil it down to presence if you want to, but you would have to define presence correctly. So yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not getting something overly feminized, which can be the case for men now.
Well, and that's an interesting thing. I identify as a submissive man. So for me, that is an energy and current, and yet at the same time, I don't necessarily identify that as being feminine. For me, that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm tapping into the feminine. It does mean that I'm tapping into the presence of service
Mm.
and being of service, but being able to show up fully in that and knowing my boundaries and consciously choosing that, as opposed to just acting at it acting from a place of nice guy people pleasing.
Yeah, I mean, we have so much confusion with these terms, also like dominance and submission. There's so much confusion around these terms. I mean, we often have like in general, we have so many flat ideas of things that are not flat. And submission and dominance is not flat. They both are pretty much packed with sovereignty. But we really have to go into that. And with feminine and masculine, it's the same. I mean, it's always this idea that feminine is weak and masculine is, I don't know, aggressive or whatever. You know, I mean, this is not true, but for many, they still think that way. And so I think we really have to unpack these terms. And submission surely is not a lack of sovereignty. It's really much connected to your needs and your body and your wants, and you can totally like direct the stage from that place if you want.
Yeah, I call it sovereign submission because
Yeah.
it's really operating from a place of sovereignty, knowing that I can give my sacred yes and my no to my mistress, and knowing that she can hold that and that I can show up then in presence and service to her. And at the same time, knowing like there is this very much this receiving of her, allowing her to penetrate my heart, even as I may show up and penetrate in other ways. So there is very much that presence, that power. It's creating that container and being able to fully connect with it in a place of confidence and ease and power, instead of connecting from a place of, I hope she'll approve of me. I hope that in clinginess and neediness, which is very much the opposite of sovereignty in any of its forms.
Yeah. Yeah, but we're not used to sovereignty. That's why we kind of attach the lack of sovereignty to everything, because this is how we can understand it better, apparently. But it's just not true. Like, there's so much sovereignty in being a human, actually.
So before we unpack that a little further, I'm just going to invite anyone who's on here to leave a comment, ask questions. I see that Mark said, "This is great, guys. Hi, sunshine." So I think he was saying hello to you on that one. And let's talk then about sovereignty. What, in your experience, and we've kind of been talking about it, but what is sovereignty? What does it mean to be sovereign? And how does that show up in the way that people connect with each other?
Well, for me, it means being in charge of your own decisions, your own reactions, your own feelings. And I think I just recently put out a note saying free will does indeed exist. And someone said, well, it does not, but it's still nice to hear. And I was like, well, no, that's not true. And I remember many stories today. And now I remember like my grandma, she had like 2 strokes. And after the second stroke, she was kind of between worlds. And then she said, the free will starts much earlier. And I think that's really true. So we have a free will as humans and as souls probably too, the way we choose life, what kind of life we choose. And, so in a relationship, I would say, it's the way how we show up and the work that we do for ourselves to really be in charge and to not be in the grip of these old stories that we carry and guilt and shame and all these things can come up. But how we deal with that is then the question, and this is up to us. So I think we have free will, and we can really choose how we do this life. And it's not the easy path, for sure not. It's a much harder path. It means that you unpack your whole life. It means that you really go into the flesh and you really confront yourself. And many don't want to do that. And this is why they say, well, free will doesn't exist. But it's just the easy way out. In fact, it does exist, but you need to be ready to do the work and to get very uncomfortable with, looking into the mirror.
It strikes me as actually, it seems like the easy way out, but it's not. It's the doorway to being a victim to suffering. It's like, like it's reactivity as opposed to responsibility.
Yeah, true.
One of the core principles that I have in the work that I do with other submissive men is around the concept of responsibility. And I like to break it down to two words. It's response and ability, because it's the ability to respond. Mm-hmm. I can react to a situation and triggers and all those other things, or I can say, all right, I have the ability to respond. I have the ability to be present and make a choice, a conscious choice. And that doesn't mean that uncomfortable emotions won't come up, or sensations or experiences. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to be confronted by traumas or any of those other things, but I get the choice to respond to that. And what I see, how I see that showing up in relationship is that I get the choice to respond to that in a way that says to my beloved, I've got you. I can handle you. I can be fully here. And that she can do the same. That she can say, I've got you. I can handle you. And I will say, this is an interesting thing, that Sheena is the only person in my life that has ever said, I've got you, as a woman. I've had men say that before, but it's been a fascinating thing to observe. And it is operating from that place of sovereignty, that place of just knowing I can choose the response instead of just reacting and being a victim. Mm-hmm. So I agree with you. Free will is, what were you going to say?
And I want to add to that, especially when we choose to not act out of the old pattern, but to choose something new, shit will come up. It will feel shitty, because everything that prevented you from doing this new step up until now is now coming to the surface. But this is also how we solve that and how we heal that. And I think this is why relationships are such a great, playground, if you want to solve these things and to heal these things. There's great opportunity to really develop as a human.
Yeah. The interesting thing that I find is that when I work with men, and I'm curious if your experience is the same, that what I found with the men that I've worked with is a lot of times what they want to know is, can I handle their intensity? Can I handle their secret life? Have you found that to be true in your work with them, when you're working with them on their relationships and helping them to show up in a different way?
Well, it never was a question, but there's something in me that communicates to people that I can, and that I, in fact, want to see it. And so this never was a question where I was always one where people like to tell me their stories, and they felt free to tell me everything, and also like the nasty stuff, like especially the nasty stuff, because I'm not very much into taboos, and especially, you know, when there is something in our life, I think there shouldn't be shame or guilt attached to it, because it's just like part of us and there's a reason for it. So, and I really feel that it's not something that I learned or that I convinced myself to, or like a mantra I say daily. It's just like part of my nature. And I think people feel that. So, but I think they benefit from it because we have so much restriction in our world and so much, this is how it should be. And it's, well, it's not helping.
It occurs to me actually that it's part of what is actually taking away from the presence.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, I have all these burdens that I'm holding on to, this shame, this guilt, or whatever else for the things that I've done or not done or whatever. And it actually is taking away from the power, because that power is being put into all of those things instead of being directed in a way that's actually useful and helpful.
Yeah. Fully agree.
But folks, if you have questions or comments as we continue on, I invite you to drop those in. Great opportunity to connect with us. It's one of the reasons I love doing these lives, because it actually gives all of us a chance to participate in the conversation. But yes, it's me and Francisca talking back and forth. But if you have things you want to share, I invite you to do that. So how does this show up, this lack of presence? How does this show up in sex? Let's talk about sex for a moment here, because this is, I think, the challenge that I see for so many people a lot of the time in terms of their flirting, their sexual relationships, all those other things.
So you want to know, like, in terms of sex now, or like in general in relationships?
In terms of sex, like, how does it show up with sex?
With sex, I think you can really say, like, every time, I'm sorry, I was just distracted, but there's a comment, right?
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah. Every time someone is not present, he will start to perform. Let's just say he. Well, it can also be a she, of course. And in sex, that's really much like detrimental, because he can't feel and sense and see where she's at. And you know, when we talk about dominance and submission, I can tell you like how many men I met who told me in advance how fucking dominant they are in bed. And they sat in front of me and they didn't have an ounce of like authority in them. And so they thought they might just put on the switch, you know, when it comes to sex. And then they are dominant and I should somehow like buy it from them. But it also, with like good dominance, means like a hell lot of presence, because you have to be so present and so also like kind of detached from what you want, and to really feel into the other person. And it's really like, for me, it's funny that so many men think they are dominant when they're not present at all. They cannot sense what she wants. Like, often dominance is like a cupboard for well, I just get what I want, you know? And good dominance means actually like feeling into the other person. And well, this is for me how it shows up in sex. Like you don't realize what you're doing. You just do your own thing. You're kind of in your own world and not really sensing the other person. You don't sense your lover. You don't sense what she needs. And, you know, like most people have really shitty sex, and this is because of that.
Yeah. When was the last time, this is for the audience, when was the last time that you paid full attention to your partner? Like, we're really tuned in.
Me?
No, not you, the audience. I'm asking that question to the audience. It's something to consider. I believe, in your case, I fully believe, I have no doubt to believe that you are capable. That shows up even in just how present you are here. But for the audience, this is just a question to consider because it's really important. Now, Mark had a question for us. He said, Taylor, I would love to hear your and Francisca's thoughts about how we grow through discomfort. Ooh, we tend to shy away from any discomfort, but it's where the most introspection and understanding happens. All right, Francisca, why don't you take back first, and then I'll offer my own thoughts on this.
So the question is how we grow through discomfort?
Yeah, how do we grow through discomfort?
Well, I would say the experience to see yourself being in discomfort and holding that is very much like widening your spectrum, and you just see your capability growing in being with things that are not pleasant, because we all can stay with pleasant things usually, but also this is actually a question. And interestingly, like the more we can stay with discomfort and the more we can feel uncomfortable things, painful things, the more pleasure grows too. So how we grow is we become more present, and for men especially, I would say the ability to hold and to contain grows through staying with discomfort and holding that. And that's like a key thing. The containment in men is like a key thing. And many can't. I mean, many run really fast like this. They don't need like a lot, like a big trigger to run, but they run fast. When there's a problem, they are gone. And this also plays in sexuality, because it means that the moment she will open, and you never know what comes out, like could be liquids, could be crying, could be throwing up, whatever, like if he can't hold her in discomfort, if he can't hold her in pain, she will not trust him to hold her in the big orgasms that he actually wants her to have. So we need to do these connections because it is connected.
Yeah, no, I agree with that fully. And here's what I would offer. My perspective on that is treat your discomfort as an edge. Lean into it. Surrender to it. Invite it in. I use my discomfort to spur on growth. I use it to fuel. I treat it as, here's this opportunity for me to take something, an edge that I'm at, and do what I need to do something with it. And I think it's interesting because there was something that somebody said the other day. It was in a class I was attending. He said, implementation is how you face your fear. Because if you do something, then you're doing something with it. You're not letting your fear get in the way. And I think it's the same thing with discomfort. When I can be in my own discomfort and hold that, then I know I can also hold the discomfort or anger or sadness or anything else that comes up when I'm with Sheena, when I'm with my beloved. I know I can fully hold that and handle it, and know that in the moment that she can relax into that and know that I can handle that. And if I can handle her in those moments, then yes, I can handle her in the moments where there is joy and bliss and everything else. It's interesting too, because our ability to hold that discomfort is also our ability to be fully present with the joy and bliss, because joy and bliss can be really fucking uncomfortable sometimes.
Overwhelming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's something really powerful about that. It is interesting because I think a lot of times people will lean toward the idea of like pleasure. And it's like pleasure is great, but pleasure without presence is not, it is just a distraction. It's not real. It does become performative. Okay.
Yeah, and pleasure can also it can fast go into quick dopamine stuff. and it gets hollow, and it's not, it's not grounded anymore. And we actually need, there's often this pairing of pleasure and pain, and I think it's for a reason. We need both. And that's actually what makes life interesting, also what makes sex interesting, and what makes humans interesting, if they can be both, and if they can hold both.
Sheena responded and said, I find having a container of presence in partnership allows discomfort to be fully met. If there's a commitment to being fully in, and there's no doubt that container creates a sense of embodied and psychological safety for whatever shows up. Yeah, that's a really interesting point. And so this actually brings something to mind, which is this concept of being in. It seems to me, when I look at relationships these days, that it is really easy to leave relationships, and a lot of people do. And I say this as somebody who's been divorced twice, so I'm not throwing stones at glass houses here, because I've been there, done that. And what I've discovered in all of that is that there is this thing that as long as I have a foot out the door, I'm never going to fully show up for myself, let alone for her. What do you think about this quality of inness as it pertains to relationship? How important is it?
Very important. I think the whole notion that we have right now in dating, we do, I don't know, like maybe Berlin is heightened in that sense, but we have like a lot of casual dating, open relationship. I've been there too, but I can say it's either a segue into ending the relationship, or it's a way to bypass commitment. And I think both is not helpful. You will not, it's a way to not get to these painful points. And I think because we are now, we live in this world where we feel like we don't have to, because we can just, like, everything we want is just one click away. And we kind of apply that to relationships too, but it just doesn't work. It's not how this works. And where we are in regards to relationship and dating, many people complain, but I think it's just like a mirror of where we stand in regards to our personal development. And so I would say, like, either you're in a relationship or you're not. Like, these middle things that we now choose that are so weird for me, and they don't work. And whenever I saw that, or someone told me that they're like whatever, polyamorous or whatever, I was like, wow, that's sad. It's really sad. I'm sorry for you. That's how I feel, because it feels poor to me. And this is not to judge anyone, but I feel like it's just a way to bypass certain things. So I'm not for it.
I definitely think that there is an importance to the commitment. Like, am I really committed to this person? Am I committed to the relationships? Now, I will share that I'm actually in a throuple. I'm with Sheena and her partner, her husband as well. And so we have that. But even that has taken a level of commitment, because it's been a commitment to all three. It's not just a commitment to her. It's not just a commitment to me. It's also a commitment to him. And so the way that we show up together plays a significant role, because if we're not all in with each other, it's not going to work. And so I think it is a really important thing. And at the same time, it's been one of the understandings that we all three came to is like, look, we're not going to be involved with anybody else. This is it. This is what we want. This is the commitment. And so it's a very fascinating area to explore, because it's that level of commitment. And I've been around people where they're dating like half a dozen people or something. And I'm like, A, where do you have the time? And B, like, how can you really fully show up for that person? It's again, it's really leaky energy at a certain point. And I mean, if that's what works for you at the time, great. But yeah, there's something there's it's not going to bring the presence
No,
that people want.
it's not. No, it's not. Yeah, you're not gonna be like you're not gonna show up the same way. It's not working. I don't believe that. Can I ask you a question? Is that like, so it's you and she now, or are you also connected in any relational way with her husband? Because I
Oh,
didn't know that.
yeah, I am connected relationally with him. We've become really good friends. We do, I consider him my brother. The way that we connect, we purposely do. We have a game that we play, all three of us, because we do voice notes each day, called Question of the Day, where we each ask a question and all three of us answer the question. And it's a way of continuing to get to know each other and deepen the relationship. And it's actually, I would recommend this regardless of what your relationship configuration is. This is a great way to get to know somebody. This is what I actually really used as kind of the gauge for the relationship was, let's really spend some time getting to know each other on multiple levels. And from pretty much the very beginning of getting involved with Sheena, I made it clear on my end. I was like, I want to get to know her husband as well. And so, that became one of those things where it pretty much like a month or two in, it just kind of naturally morphed into that. And then we do a game night every week. We like to play board games. We do it virtually right now, unless I'm visiting them, but we do board games, and just spend some time there and talking and playing and connecting. So it's very much an intentional container where the three of us are connecting and having conversations. It's never just, and sometimes, yeah, it's just me and her, or me and him, talking about something or whatever. But the point is that we've very intentionally chosen to create a relationship where all three of us are together and end with each other. And I think that is absolutely essential. It wouldn't be able to work any other way. Not in a way that would really create a lasting relationship. It's going where we're going to all three support each other and be with each other.
Mm-hmm. Okay, interesting.
So I think it is possible, but I also think it's that again, it depends on the level of work that people want to do. There's a reality too that the more relationships you add, the more work you have to do. So if you have too many relationships, there's no way you're going to be able to show up in full presence with
Yeah,
those
I mean, it's
people.
like yeah, it's very likely that if one relationship is not so comfortable right now, you just move to the other one, and I think this is what happens oftentimes. So we
Right,
go from pleasure to pleasure, which becomes very empty then with time.
right. And it's not real.
Mm.
So being able to be fully in this case with two other people, means being in with the uncomfortable moments as well as the comfortable moments. It's not, it's definitely not something I would recommend for somebody who's not fully committed to being in with themselves either. I think that that's a huge part of the component, is that in being in with myself, trusting myself, loving myself, respecting myself, and knowing like what I want, then I can speak up for that. And that's the other thing that I find, at least in terms of men lacking presence, is a lot of times men don't speak up for what they want or need. So it's really hard to confront them if they don't do that.
Yeah, it seems that most men learn to tend to others' needs, but didn't learn to well, what they should get in return. Not because it's not about 50-50, but like respect and also having their needs met. Seems to be like a big gap, I feel.
I definitely think it's a gap. So let's speak to that. Like, in your experience, what is something that men could be doing differently or better around that? I mean, I have my own thoughts on that, but I want to hear what your thoughts are.
Different. What do you mean exactly?
What can men be doing better to attend to themselves, take care of themselves, so that they can show up with more awareness and presence in relationship to somebody else?
So I think oftentimes men learn that through pain. So they have very painful experiences with women, for example, and then they start to learn what they actually need and what they want. And apart from that, if you start to feel into yourself, and this might sound a bit cryptic, but I can't really say it better, I think, and to feel what you feel and to recognize that's very helpful. And you know what the interesting thing for me is that, because oftentimes I see this notion that, or hear it, that men are not as intuitive. But my experience from the conversations I had with men and the men I work with, they pretty much know. And when you trace that back, they have like a situation, like a really shitty situation with a woman or in their workplace. And when you trace it back, you hear how they knew it initially, that what they should have done, but they didn't listen to it. So I think actually men know, but they don't listen to it. That's my feeling.
Yeah,
And they don't trust this inner voice.
Yeah, this speaks to something I've seen talked about elsewhere and something I've talked about, which is the sensitive hearts of men. Men have sensitive hearts. And I wrote the other day, somebody else on Substack written something about, like, you know, she was like, I realize the power that I have when I penetrate a man's heart, like that's the sensitive part of him. And I thought, yeah, there's truth to that. And what men have learned to do is they've learned to close the door, lock it, and throw away the key.
Yeah, and there's like a big chunk of guilt. There's a lot of guilt in the feeling I have to tend to others' needs and wants. And if that means I override my own feelings or what I need or whatever, that's okay. And I think when it comes to intuition, it's not okay, because intuition is there for a reason, and we can really use that as guidance. Yeah.
I agree with that. Intuition is, I mean, I use intuition all the time. It's a part of my spiritual practice. It's something, so I disagree. I agree with the idea that men are intuitive, that they have that access. They don't always recognize they have it. And sometimes it's about bringing that out. Sheena shared, with sovereign relationship, capacity does seem to expand. There is a growing ability to be all in with, for, in different configurations of self and romantic relationships, friendships, life itself. I think I think that's an interesting point, because like I found that, like, I sit in circle with other men, and one of the things that I found is the more in I am with those men in circle, fully present with them and whatever it is they're sharing, the more that has expanded my capacity to show up in other areas of my life and to be fully present. And sometimes that's where what I've needed is the support of those brothers in order to be fully present and connected and in with the situation. So there's sovereignty can come in many different forms.
Yeah.
But it's living it. So we're coming to the top of the hour here. And I've got a class I need to go to. It's another thing. So I want to, first of all, honor and respect your time, and thank you for being on here. And I'd love for you to share where people can find you on the web, where they can learn more about you and what you do. And then I have one other request before we wrap up.
Yeah. So they can find me here on Substack. My name is Francisca, and my publication is called The Man She Wants. I have a homepage. It's actually, you can find it all in that. On Substack here, I'm also on Instagram. You will post it on Instagram too, right? And there, my name is Franziska. They can find me there. And I also have LinkedIn and Facebook, which is kind of goes on the side. So my main thing really is Substack, where I post the most.
Excellent. And I'm going to have that in the show notes as well, folks. So you'll be able
perfect.
To okay. And then finally, I would love for you to share with us one final word or phrase of wisdom that we can carry forward with us into the day.
Oh, that's a big request. Oh, let me think.
I know. I asked it of every single one of my every single one of my people that I interview. So
Say that again, please.
could you share a word or a phrase of wisdom that we can carry forward with us into the day?
Well, maybe it's what I shared before. It's free will does indeed exist, and we can use that. It's up to us.
Perfect. Francisca, it has been such an honor and pleasure to meet with you and connect with you and have this conversation. And I look forward to continuing to get to know you as time goes on and to share this with other people out there in Substack and in general. So thank you for coming on to the Submissive Myths
Thank you
Mysteries.
so much. Thank you so much for hosting.